For 40 years, the Zion United Church of Christ Bell Choir has been bringing inspiring praise to God and tremendous joy to our community, enriching our spirits and lifting our hearts. Dozens of ringers and countless worshipers have been able to tune their hearts to God's melody because of this special ministry. Bob Cook recalls how our bell choir got its start.
In June of 1983, at the annual assembly of the Indiana-Kentucky Conference, a bell choir played at the opening worship service, and it was very impressive. It was just like awe-inspiring. It gave you chills. And in listening to the bells, it's like, why can't we do that? And not only would it be a different sound, a different way of bringing music into the church, but there are members who aren't necessarily singers, but they played in the band or the orchestra or they play the piano. They just don't sing. The bell choir would be a way to give those members a musical way to participate in worship. So we looked into what it was going to take to start a bell choir. By June of 1984, the summer of 1984, we had raised enough money to purchase the bells. We put our order in, and the bells arrived December of 1984. And it's like, oh, we've got to play something for Christmas Eve. So we hurriedly put together a small group that played a version of Silent Night, and we also played on one or two of the carols for that Christmas Eve.
Something unique about this ministry is how accessible our directors have made it over the years. If you've never played an instrument or even picked up a bell before, you can be part of this ministry. Our bell tables are open to all.
The bell choir is not basically just for those that can read music, and every generation can play. For instance, one year I had an 8-year-old that had to stand on a block to see over the music stand to see me directing. It truly is all ages, doesn't make any difference. No difference of the skill level, because we played music that was built around what they could accomplish.
It has been exciting to watch our bell choir grow over the last few years, especially as some of our young adults have joined us.
So I grew up in the church watching and listening to bell choir play, and in college I had an opportunity to sign up for a spring term class for handbells, and so I was excited to try it. In church I had only ever played chimes, so you can imagine my disappointment when I showed up to class and I was assigned chimes. But luckily the instructor was getting volunteers to learn a technique called four-in-hand, and it's where you have 2 bells or 2 notes in each hand. After my spring term, it was just a matter of asking Vivian if I could join the bell choir.
After 40 years of ministry, you can imagine that the bell choir has made a lot of wonderful memories.
It was the Easter of '85. We were able to put together an ensemble. Jeff Donahue was our organist. Diane was our pianist, but she was also a music student at Butler at the time, and she was able to get a brass quintet that came to play with us on Easter. And of course, then we had the bell choir and the vocal choir, and we did a version of Thou Art Worthy. The brass choir was in the balcony, the bells were down front, the choir was in the loft, and then as I said, we had the organ and the piano. It was spine chilling. It was very, very fun to do that kind of thing.
The bell choir even hit the road a time or two.
It eventually grew to where I had all junior high school students. And we made a trip to Decatur, Illinois, where Pastor Mark Jerrybook was the minister and his wife Pat was the bell choir director. And so we joined with their bell choir playing. And at one point, their bell choir processed in playing the bells. We got back to Indy, and the kids go, "Why can't we do that?" Well, it's going to take a lot of practice, a lot of memorization, and I forget what service. It was probably a Christmas Eve service. We were playing "O Come, O Ye Faithful," and the bells walked in playing "O Come, O Ye Faithful," and then the vocal choir followed. But the kids really enjoyed the time worshiping and playing with another bell choir, so they got a different feeling of that. And I was happy. I was proud of my kids that they wanted to do something different.
The bell choir has often been quite willing to try something new and have a little fun, and the holidays have been a great time for that.
We also, in addition to playing sacred music, we were able to play for what we call here at Zion the Altenheim dinner, which was always the Friday before Thanksgiving. We invited residents from the Altenheim to come over, and our church put on this big turkey dinner, turkey dressing, and pies galore. And for several years, the bells provided entertainment. And that gave us an opportunity to play music that wasn't necessarily church music. Jolly Old St. Nicholas, and I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas. Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, that was one of our other favorites. So it was really fun to be able to play songs that were not designated for church.
Our bell choir members have used their gifts and talents to touch those outside of our congregation too.
On Sunday afternoons, the Altenheim has a worship service at 2 o'clock, and a couple of times the bell choir has gone to play for their worship service. And it gives a new aspect to the bell ringers as to the people that listen to the music and kind of nod on like memories of the music that we're playing that they remember. And I remember that when we were finished with the service, everything was being put away, my Aunt Marie would come up and pick up the bell that she played when she was in the bell choir and ring it once, and then she was happy. And it was a blessing for the choir, for the bell choir to do that.
Another great memory is from just a year ago when we were able to play at the gathering of General Synod for the whole United Church of Christ, which was meeting here in Indianapolis. And we were in the convention center, this huge hall. It was mind-blowing because we had no idea what we were going to sound like in this large, we've played in the gymnasium here at Zion before, and it's quite a different sound when you're such a large room like that. But then to put us into the convention center to play, it was a little bit mind-blowing, but it was such a thrilling experience to play before several thousand people. And we made it through. We played about 15, maybe 20 minutes of music, and it was exciting.
So I've always enjoyed playing music and playing different instruments. So playing in the bell choir has been a lot of fun, especially as a group, learning to practice, making mistakes, and trying to learn from the mistakes. I think bells are important for the ministry of Zion because of our connection to music. So music gives us an opportunity to evoke emotion, technique, and praise to God.
How many churches have stored their bells in closets and they've lost that music ministry because they just haven't been used? And then when we got to thinking, we truly have been doing this continually for 40 years, except for COVID, kind of made us a unique situation. So it truly is an event to celebrate 40 years of bell choir ministry here at Zion.